Okay. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the fourth Living Lakes webinar on the main topic of green filters. My name is Julia Perez Sillero. I'm project manager at Global Nature Fund, and I will be moderating today's event. I'm glad that you're all here. Before we begin, let me introduce you Udo Gattenluna, Executive Director of Global Nature Fund, who will give us a short introduction. Udo? Udo?
Oh, hello.
Hello, Udo.
Yes, hello, Julia. So, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Okay, can you see my screen?
Yeah.
Excellent. So, good afternoon, everybody. Thank you very much for joining our Living Lakes webinar. It's a new experience for Julia and myself, so it's the first time we are coordinating such a webinar. This is the fourth webinar, but the previous events have been coordinated by one of our colleagues, by Alain, who unfortunately left Global Nature Fund. So we keep it very brief concerning the introduction. As you can see, we will have, three presentations by Felipe Valderrama from Colombia, Isabel Martin from Spain, and Antonio Guillem from Spain as well, on the topic of green filters, constructed wetlands as an innovative and cost-efficient system for the water treatment or water purification, eventually and ultimately benefiting the people, of course, and the environment. Those webinars are coordinated and organized against the background or in the framework of our Living Lakes network. I have had a brief look at the list of participants, and I have seen that many of you are either a member of this network or familiar with the network, so I can be very brief. You know, we have partner organizations all over the world involved in the management and protection of water. Those present.
Hello.
Is to make it tangible, to make it meaningful, and an instrument to do that are, of course, very concrete projects aiming at very concrete, robust, and tangible outcomes. And on an international level, very often the involvement of the communities plays a crucial role here. So our idea, and this webinar is an instrument, not the only one, but one of the instruments is to keep the network alive and active by identifying those areas where we have mutual interest, where we can foster our cooperation. And as you can see in that little sketch, it is, you can look at it from three different perspectives: a geographical one, a more topic-related one, or a funding-related one. Today, we start from a more topic-related perspective, looking at constructed wetlands, and we will hear more from Felipe from recent experiences in Colombia, from San Miguel de Sema, and some other sites, three other sites. We have been conducting and are still conducting a project in Susacuitiva and Fuquene with the Fundación Humedales, and Felipe will tell you more about that. On top of that, we have a couple of green filter projects with colleagues in Mexico, and as well we had a project by the Friends of Seven Lakes Foundation, implemented by them in the Philippines. A little bit a different approach, as you can see, rather floating islands inside a lake than channels that are used for the treatment of the sewage. And at the time being, there is another project under implementation in South Africa, close to Durban in KwaZulu-Natal, by Wildlands Conservation Trust. We are aiming at realizing more projects in 2016 and the consecutive years, 17 and 18. You can see a couple of countries we are in contact with at the time being in Latin America, and there are other contacts, for instance, in Jordan, outside Latin America. So coming back to that aspect of keeping the network alive, we hope that this webinar today firstly will give you some insights into what we are doing, will give you some tangible information, but will stimulate also action and ideas. So we really encourage you to get back to us after the webinar with ideas on future activities. And here, the last slide, a little brief overview on where we have received funding for green filter projects in the past, on a global level from the European Commission. And I think there is a potential also in the more research-oriented Horizon 2020 program. And that was a very important source of funding was the German Ministry for International Cooperation, the abbreviation is BMZ, and we're aiming at involving also other ministries such as the Ministry for the Environment, BMUB or BMBF. That's the Ministry for Research, not on this list, or the DBU. I don't want to go too much into detail, rather stimulate a little bit the creativity and the ideas on how to fund such projects that create in the end a certain momentum that hopefully communities use such a very cost-efficient and appropriate technology more frequently. So that's it from my side. Thank you for being with us, and with this I hand over to Julia or directly to Felipe. Julia, you decide. Thank you.
Udo?
Yes.
Hello? I can't hear. I can hear. Oh, now I see your screen. I wasn't see anything, but I just heard your voice. All right.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, but now it looks there's something going on.
So,
All right. Okay, now I can see the presentation. It's all right. It works.
thank you very much, Udo. As Udo said, it's starting. It's a learning curve for us in this activity. So we will circulate the presentations after the webinar, so you will have all the presentations. Once that's said, I would like to present our first speaker, is Felipe Valderrama, environmental engineer specialized in water resources at the Fundación Humedales in Colombia, where he works as project manager in green filter design and implementation. Felipe, I will give you the word right now.
Okay,
Wait a second. Yes.
maybe please confirm if you can see the screen.
If
There's
you,
like
yes,
okay.
we can see it if you do it a presentation. Right.
I'm going to put it like this.
Perfect.
Is it okay?
Perfect.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Okay, that's great. So hi to everyone. Thanks, Julia, for the presentation. Hope everything is having a good time wherever they are. I don't know like the nationalities of the people that are attending to the webinar. So hi to everyone. My name is Felipe. I work for Fundación Humedales, and thanks to Udo that introduced me before, and he made a very short summary of what I'm going to talk about, which is like technical aspects of the green filter projects and some social aspects of the green filter projects, at least in Colombia, okay? But it's a context, Colombian context is a very general context for developing countries all around the world, so here it goes. So what I'm going to talk about is what do the green filters are, how does a green filter project works on field, what are the components of a green filter system, what to expect from a green filter system, and what to take care of in the operation of a green filter. To begin with, I'm going to talk about why Fundación Humedalex is working with this technology, and it's because Fundación Global Nature. It's you all know Fundación Global Nature from the Living Lakes conferences, and well, they transferred us this technique, the green filters technique, and the first green filter that we built in Colombia was with the support, the technical support of Fundación Global Nature, and of course the financial support of GNF, and in that case from KAG and SICA, which are private companies that wanted to participate in the project. So let's start with the technical aspects. What do green filters are? Well, green filters are constructed or artificial wetlands for wastewater treatment. They work exactly as a natural wetland in terms of biological, chemical, and physical processes to transform the organic matter that is flowing into them. And well, what we do in this case is just to modify the hydraulics of the system to make those processes a little bit more efficient. So it's natural processes that are enhanced by a change in the hydraulics of the system, and basically it works like the image says. We just get some wastewater from a municipality or a small town, and what happens is that the flow, the speed of the flow, it's highly reduced, and when that happens, the sediments, they settle, excuse me, the sediments, not the particles that are flowing with the wastewater and that are heavy enough, they settle down after the contact with the roots of the plants, and as I said, with the change in the flow speed. And what remains in the water, it's the dissolved particles that makes contact with the roots of the plants and the bacteria that grows in the roots of the plants. The bacteria transform all that dissolved particles, organic particles, and they convert them into nutrients that are used by the plants to grow. So what we are doing in a mass balance, in a general mass balance, is to transform organic matter that it's polluting the water, and we transform it into vegetal biomass. That's what we do with the green filters. And the great thing is that we are providing that to happen in natural ecosystems. For example, in Colombia, we work close to lakes. Fundación Humedales is working close to two big high-Andean lakes, which are Fuquene and Tota. Fuquene, it's all covered, or it's almost all covered by macrophytes, by vegetation. So what we're doing is to treat the water before it gets into the lake, and to convert all that organic matter into biomass in a different place than the lake. So we do this in the green filters and prevent that to happen in the natural ecosystems. So as you can read, it consists in using plant species already established in the region that are planted in long, narrow, and shallow channels. The systems are, like it says, it's a very long channel in which the water flows very, very slowly, making contact with the roots and the microbes, and making this biological, physical, and chemical processes, letting these processes to change the water quality, and in the end we can take out a water with a lot better quality than the water that we were receiving in the first place. So the advantages of these strategies, and this is why they're very good in developing countries. It's because they have low implementation costs. Constructions are not expensive. The operation, it's very cheap and it's very easy. It can be done by anyone. It can be done, for example, by a gardener. You don't have to. It doesn't require professional labor for its operation. So it's very good, because in developing countries sometimes it's very hard to find professional labor in the small towns. Um, they have positive impacts in terms of biodiversity, and Antonio, which is another panelist in the webinar, will talk a lot more about this specific point. It doesn't generate odors if it's well operated. Um, if you find a good spot to build it, you won't need energy, and no chemicals are required for the operation. That is very good, because it also reduces, these last 2 points help to reduce the operation costs. So it's very important also in developing countries that the operation costs are as low as possible. The disadvantages is that you have to compensate all these advantages with space and time. You need a lot of time, or at least more time than other strategies for wastewater management. You need more time to compensate this, no energy and no chemicals. Um, so you will need a piece of land and storage volume to make this treatment good enough to reach the legal, or or what the law requires you to obtain in the treatment, or with this treatment. So how does green filters projects work? We just have to find the place, and if you have enough space, you can build these things. If you don't have space, it's better to work with another strategy. What happens in developing countries is that we still have some space, and the land is not that expensive, so we can implement this kind of strategies. There are a couple of important things to have in mind when you are selecting a place to work, and besides the area, it should be enough to treat the water of the community that you will attend with the green filter. It's that they must have low flooding risks or any other risks. And another thing is that the terrain should guarantee that you can transport the water from the community to the working site by gravity, without pumping and any other strategy to give the water a more hydraulic head, because it will moving the water just by gravity will make the operational costs a lot lower. So after you select the spot, having these points in mind, you just approach this is an example. This is Fukene. It's where we are building one green filter right now. We're about to finish. I will let you know when we do. And these are the potential sites. We selected the red one, and we're working there right now. As soon as we get results, I will be more than happy to share them with you. So after the selection of the site, we just talk to the community. We'll explain them what we're doing, why are we doing it, and how we will do it. And hoping we do this approach, hoping that the community will get really involved, because their involvement, it's the thing that will make the project sustainable in a long term. So this is, for me, one of the most important parts of the projects of the green filters. The approach to the community, it's very, very, very important. not also because of the operation, because the community will operate it, but because during the construction there will be movement of machinery, there will be noise, there will be dust, well, so it's highly important to have the community in your side, because they will make your life a lot easier and the project will flow a lot better if they are happy and if they understand what you are doing there. So after that, when you talk to the people, you just go ahead and do the designs. This is me talking to people in Cuitiba, close to Lake Tota. They are very informal and very simple conferences. We just talk to the people, we explain them, and most of the time, or at least what happened to us, is 100% of the time the people want to work with you. They understand the context, they understand the necessity of implementing this kind of strategies. So it's very easy and they get along with it very well. You go ahead with the design. The designs are very simple. There's a lot of channels. It's a net of channels that are connected to a previous pre-treatment units, which are these ones. The pre-treatment units are a desander and a sifting system, and a simplified septic tank that also works with as a grease trap. The designs are very simple. You can see them here. This is, for example, the design for a septic tank that works as a grease trap also. It's very simplified. The designs are very simple also to make them easy to understand by the people that will construct them. We select from the community, we select the people that builds the green filters. So the designs and the structures have to be simple enough to be replicated by anyone almost. I mean, at least anyone who has knowledge of construction and not professional, but like empirical knowledge of construction. If you do have that, you can build one of these green filters. These are the channels. The channels are very simple. They have a geometrical in shape. They are covered with some impervious liners that prevent the water to flow into the soil and to pollute the groundwaters. And that would be it. As you see, they're very, very simple, but they work very, very well. I will show you some results when I'm about to finish the presentation. So what we do is do the constructions. Constructions are very simple also. It just leveling the terrains, do the excavations, then install the impervious liners, construct the pretreatment units, the connection units, and then you have a thing like this. This is the green filter in Susa. It attends more or less, or it's designed for 1,000 inhabitants, and it's just this. We'll show you a picture later with the vegetation already planted. It has an area of more or less the total area of this piece of land is 6,500 square meters, but the treatment area, the channels area, it's 3,500 square meters. So it's more or less 3.5 square meters per inhabitant. Okay, that's a number you should remember. Yes?
Sorry, just to keep on time, remind that we have 5 minutes left, more or less.
Sure, no
Thanks.
worries. I will finish soon enough.
Thanks.
So after we do the construction, we do some workshops. The workshops is just a strategy to reassure that the community, the local authorities, the local environmental authorities, even the kids in the school understand the why the green filters are implemented and how they work and how to operate them. So as it's shown in the presentation, the approach to the community and these workshops are the two activities that really determined if we are going to achieve long-term sustainability or not. It's crucial to do these 2 points very well. Of course, you have to do the design and to construct it well, the system and the structure. But these two things are very important. So please have this in mind always when you're working with this wind filter technique. After that, we just do a performance evaluation, but I wanted to show you before showing you the results, like a sketch of the system, um, scheme of what green filters is. This is the scheme of SUSA. It's composed by a sifting system, which is here. It's some iron bars that prevent big things to flow into the system and block any pipes. Then it's a desander that takes out of the minerals or the heavy particles that are flowing in the water. Then it's a simplified septic tank, which work as a grease trap and that retains the heavy particles that flow out of the desander that are not removed in the desander. And what it flows into these channels is mostly dissolved organic particles that are transformed into vegetal biomass after it flows all through this very long path. Okay. Um, Now I'm going to show you the results. The first one in green are from San Miguel de Sema, the first green filter that we built. They are very good. They have some they have low removal of fats and oils in the beginning, but as you see in the SUSA project, which is in blue, the removal of fats and oils is very high. We did a very small modification of the pretreatment structures to accomplish this, but as you all see, the performance efficiency, it's very high. The removal of BOD, of organic matter, it's over 95%. COD, the chemical oxygen demand, it's also highly reduced. And also total suspended solids. There are other parameters that we measure. So if you want, you will have my email in the end of the presentation, and you can write to me, and I will send you the information. But this is just to show you that they work very well, even though they have low maintenance. That's not the ideal the ideal situation for a green filter, but even though it's not well operated in a period of more or less 6 months, it still have a high efficiency in the removal of BOD and COD. Not that much in total suspended solids, but it's also good in fats and oils. So it's not the ideal, but even though the operation is not very well, it works well. Okay, so they give you they give you a little bit of time to forget about them, and they work well. That's not the ideal, as I said, but it's just to show you that they are very robust and they work very well. They are all alive, and they are a very good strategy. What to take care of? As they are wetlands, you need to take care of vectors. You can do it biologically with Bacillus thuringiensis. You have to take care that the organic and hydraulic loads are not overpassed, because if you let that happen, they will start to generate odors, and it's not a thing you want to happen. Vegetation should be local or endemic, or at least already established in the region where you are working, and maintenance should be strict and permanent. The maintenance is just a harvest every 2 months of 1/3 of the total accumulated biomass. Then you have to remove the phytonols accumulated in the septic tank every week, to take care of the sifting system every week, and to remove all the sludge that it's accumulated in the desunder and the septic tank and the first channel every 1.5 years. That's all the maintenance you have to do to keep them working very well. These are the entities that help us do all this. Karcher from Germany, Living Lakes, what we are together, BMZ, SICA, Global Nature Fund, Fundación Global Nature, and that would be it. So thank you, everyone. Sorry if I spoke too fast or too slow. I don't know by now. But thank you to everyone, and hope that this information will be useful for you in the future. Any questions? There's my email, and please write to me. I will be more than glad to give you answer to your questions.
Thank you very much, Felipe, for your presentation. We will definitely keep informed the partners about the development of the green filters in Colombia. Now I would like to introduce you our next panelist is Isabel Martin, a scientific researcher at the Spanish Foundation Center for Water Technologies, working in the water sector. Isabel, welcome, and I give you the word right now.
Hello, Julia, welcome. One moment, please. Julia?
Yes?
Yes, I have problem to see the complete presentation. Do you see my presentation?
No, Isabel.
One moment, please.
Yes.
And now, do you see?
Now we see your presentation. Yes.
Yes, it's okay?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Just remind you have around 20 minutes.
Okay, thank you. First, I would like to thank both Julia and Udo for inviting me to participate in this webinar. Well, my presentation is about the constructive wetland for wastewater treatment and reuse in small communities. And in the context of wastewater treatment and reuse, I would like to mention some questions. The access to drinking water, the proper sanitation, treatment of urban wastewater, and a safe water reuse provide the backbone of development in a country. Unfortunately, there is an important imbalance between developed and developing countries or areas, and the population most affected is concentrated on rural and scattered areas and on marginal zones of large cities in underprivileged countries. If we analyze in more detail the situation, small settlements, rural areas, etc., present some characteristics. For example, present a high community dispersion that involves the complexity in infrastructure management. Related with characteristics of wastewater, they present high oscillations in flow rate during the day to be taken into account in the dimensioning and design. And in the wastewater quality, we have to mention that small communities usually generate a small but highly polluted volume of wastewater. In this table, you can see different parameters related with organic matter, etc., and the regular rates that you can find in this kind of populations. If we continue with the detailed analysis of this area, we have an additional problem sometimes. We have the water scarcity that can produce limit food production and affect the food security. Sometimes we have inadequate or inexistent access sanitation and or urban wastewater treatment and water reclamation plants. In other way, we have a high degradation of quality with public health risk. If we analyze the prevalence and the persistence of different pathogens and parasitic microorganisms, we can see that intestinal elements, virus, bacteria, protozoa are in a very high concentration. And sometimes there is the difficulty to determine the cause due to numerous factors. And finally, I would like to mention that sometimes in these areas the policies are undefined or not implemented. So this is the frame of the work of CENTA, the Foundation CENTA. We work principally in small communities, decentralized areas, scattered areas, underprivileged areas, developing countries, etc., where the conditions on basic sanitation, wastewater treatment, and reuse are very, very bad. So in this kind of communities, we have to look for some technologies that meet some requirements. As comment before Felipe in the last presentation, it's necessary that this kind of technologies have a minimum operator time, minimum maintenance, efficient functioning, minimum power consumption, minimum loss of effluent quality, and if it's possible, maximum integration into the environment. So the extensive and non-conventional technologies are very, very adequate for this object. This kind of technologies always are imitating the natural process, are imitating the process that is in the soil, the process occurs in the rivers or in the lakes, or the process in the wetlands. In this slide, you can see an overview of the experimental center of Carrión de los Céspedes in the south of Spain, in Seville. This is the center of CENTA, of the Foundation CENTA. In this experimental center, we work for the wastewater treatment and reuse in small communities by conventional and non-conventional technologies. We have different areas for intensive prototypes. We work with pit filters, sand filters, floating macrophytes, aerate pond, anaerobic pond, microalgae growing, green filter with poplar and eucalyptus, and we have different plots for water reuse. But and the work in the microalgae growing. So we have a lot of technologies adequate for the wastewater treatment and possible reuse in small communities. And in this context, we work in the constructive wetlands. Relate with the constructive wetland, well, as Felipe kind of technologies operates as a complex ecosystem made for three principal elements: the water, the substrate, and the emerging aquatic plants. And this kind of technologies have a lot of use of purposes. We can use the constructive wetland for the urban or industrial wastewater treatment, for restoration of water ecosystems, for stabilization or deshydration of the sludge, or for the landscape integration. In this sense, Foundation CENTA work in all the stages of the constructive wetland. We work in the design of this kind of technologies, and I would like to mention two principal misunderstandings in the constructive wetland or in the soft technologies frame. First, that the simple maintenance and operation doesn't mean simple design and construction. And second, that the low running cost is not nil cost. Sometimes people think that this wastewater treatment plants works alone, and this is false. In the design and construction, we work with three kinds of constructive wetlands. We work with the surface constructive wetland, that is the first feature, and with subsurface flow constructive wetland, horizontal flow or vertical flow. In the design of this kind of technologies, we have to play with different flow diagrams according to the population range. So in this slide, you can see, according to the population range, the different options that we have in the construction of horizontal flow constructive wetlands. In this other slide, the different options that we have for the vertical flow constructive wetland, the flow diagrams, according to the population range. And always we try to work with the combination of constructive wetland. For example, in this design you can see a combination between vertical flow, constructive wetland, and horizontal flow, constructive wetland for nitrogen removal principally, and finally we include as a tertiary treatment and surface flow constructive wetland in order to improve the final quality of the outlet or the effluent. Okay, in this slide you can see different constructive issues. Felipe explained very well in the last presentation. And we work in this frame too. We work in the construction of constructive wetlands. We work in the inlet distribution of the system. In the two pictures, the first picture, you can see the horizontal subsurface flow constructive wetland, the inlet distribution. And in the other, you can see the inlet distribution of two vertical flow constructive wetlands. So there is a lot of options. I would like to remark the importance of the filtering bed media. In horizontal flow constructive wetland and vertical constructive wetland, the filtering media is an essential part of the treatment unit. Its proper selection and positioning determines the final performance of the system. Okay, and here you can see different pictures where we show the positioning of the filter media. Okay, other process that we have to avoid in the constructive wetland is the plantation of macrophyte. Normally, the more usual plant is in this kind of technologies is Phragmites australis. But we can plant other kinds of plants. For example, we can include iris, papyrus, sunflowers, etc., etc. So we can transform the constructive wetland in real gardens. Other aspect that we avoid in the constructive wetland is the analysis of the cost. We have to evaluate the implementation cost and the running cost. And in this graphic, you can see that according, according higher is the population, lower as are the implementation cost and the running cost. There is other question very important in the constructive wetland, that is the maintenance and operation. The maintenance and operation is very simple, but is necessary, and mainly consists on normally harvested vegetation. Okay, but this vegetation can be used, for example, for the construction of baskets, etc., etc. When we analyze the performance reduction of this kind of technologies, the performance is very high. For example, in the parameters related with the organic material, as commented before, Felipe, total suspended solid, BOD, COD, etc., the performance of the removal is very high. And in the case, for example, in the vertical flow, you can see that the removal of ammonium is high. Okay, if we continue with different projects of different studies that we can avoid in the frame of constructive wetland. In our experience, we have to work into problems that are very useful, principally in horizontal flow constructive wetlands in all over the world, that are the clogging phenomena and the inadequate water distribution. In the case of clogging phenomena, we have to analyze the substrate of the constructive wetlands. Okay, here in this slide you can see different pictures where is shown the substrate sample. And then in the laboratory we have to analyze the different substrates in order to determine the accumulate solid. It means interstitial and adherent solid. Additionally, we complement the clogging study with the water level. by a manual method, and the hydraulic conductivity measure. Other study that we include in the constructive wetland is the problem of the inadequate water distribution. For example, in this slide, you can see the study of the inlet distribution system and the flow distribution of the water along the constructive wetland using electric tomography assays. But we can evaluate by an indirect determination the effective surface, for example, in a vertical flow constructive wetland by determining the presence and abundance of Eisenia foetida, that is an earwort. We analyzed the bacterial community in the constructive wetland by PCR and DG. And in this sense, we have determined some bacteria. For example, Lysobacter, that is an aerobic bacteria associated to plants, or Clostridium, that is a typical anaerobic bacteria. When we analyze the hyperbands, we have determined other bacteria, for example, Flavobacteriales, Rhizosphere, Bacillus, Proteobacterium, etc. Continuing with the project that in Foundation Center we abort in the frame of constructive wetland, I would like to mention, for example, this. The project based on remote control 2.0, advanced monitoring and control of natural space, that is applied to wastewater treatment in second generation electrogenic wetlands. As we know, a smart wetland. This is a cheap, a flexible, web-based, and modern tool to be used in the monitoring and controlling of this kind of technologies. In the context of water reuse, we have worked during some years in order to evaluate the performance of the different combinations of constructive wetland for water reuse. So we work with constructive wetland as secondary treatment or as a tertiary treatment in combinations. We have combined vertical flow with horizontal flow, the second line horizontal flow with other horizontal flow, planed or not planed, and vertical flow with free flow constructive wetland. We have analyzed the performance. Okay, thank you, Julia. In the frame of water reuse, we have analyzed different parameters related with water discharge and other related with water reuse, as it includes in the Spanish regulation for water reuse. In this sense, for example, when we analyze the Almin-X, this is a very, very important difference between developed and developing areas. In developed areas, the concentration of Almin-X is minimal. So the final effluence, for example, we have detected only Toxocara or Hymenopus diminuta in a minimal concentration. But this is not the reality in developing countries. Okay, if we summarize the result in the water reuse, we have evaluated that the combination of constructive wetlands are a very good options for some use. For example, in this table you can see the different use: watering with crops, with contact with trees, flowers, nurseries, non-food industrial crops, etc., etc. In the water reuse context, we have done a study related with other parasitic and pathogenic microorganisms that are not included in current regulation for water reuse. For example, this is the case of the plant parasitic nematodes that affects principally to the crops, or the case of the pathogen protozoa Apcristosporidium and Giardia that affect to the health care and the crops. In the environmental restoration, well, the constructive wetland has a very, very important paper in this context. So we work principally with the free flow constructive wetland. And we analyze the quality of the final effluent, we analyze the phytoplankton, phytobentons, zooplankton, macroinvertebrates, the birds, the reptiles, the amphibians, etc., etc. We use the hybrid constructive wetland for removal of organic, emerging organic contaminants. And we use the hybrid constructive wetland for the treatment of combined sewer, wastewater, and stormwater. And finally, as in the international projection, well, only mention some projects, for example, Saraswati, supporting consolidation, replication, and upscaling of sustainable wastewater treatment and reuse technologies for India, where constructive wetland is being evaluated. A recent Horizon 2020 eMetland, a new generation of microbial electrochemical wetland for effective decentralized wastewater treatment. Other projects that we have with some countries in Africa, for example, relate with the research and development of wastewater treatment and reuse. With Morocco, cross-border campus for sustainable management of water research, where constructive wetland is very, very important for wastewater treatment and reuse in small communities. And finally, as an example, one project in El Salvador, application of sustainable sanitation technology for sustainable human development in small communities in El Salvador. In this picture, in this slide, you can see the conditions where sometimes we have to work, okay, are very difficult conditions. And in this slide, you can see different pictures with the different stage of the construction. And I agree with Felipe that the implication of the population is very, very important. Since the initial stage of the design or construction of constructive wetland and at the end of the process, because finally they have to maintenance and control the system. And well, this is all for my part. This is my contact. So if you have, you need more information about the work that Mi Foundation is doing in the frame of constructive wetlands, you can contact. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Isabel, for your interesting presentation. And last but not least, I would like to introduce all of you to Antonio Guillem. Antonio is an aquatic ecotechnology engineer working for Fundación Global Nature in Spain, and he's fully involved in the research and implementation of green filters. Antonio, I will pass the presentation to you.
Okay.
And once you're ready, remember you have 20 minutes.
Ready? Can you see the
We
my
see your
presentation,
screen,
Julia?
but not the presentation, Antonio.
And now?
Yes. Perfect. Thank you.
Yes?
Yes.
Okay. So, well, hi everyone, and thanks to all that are connected to listen this speech. And also thanks to GNF and Living Lake organization for permitting me to speak in this webinar. My partners told you all the technical aspect for constructed wetlands, so I will tell you the green filters as green infrastructures. So although Global Nature has constructed another green filters, I will tell you our current experience of the Life Albufera project. Well, Life is a policy and governance project with a budget around 1.5 million euros, where the coordinator is Polytechnic University and the other partners are 3 NGOs, Fundación Global Nature, Seoverlife, and Acción Ecologista Agro. We have 2 sponsors who are also the owner of the Tancats, Aquamed, and the Júcar River Basin Authority. And we have also obtained funds from the Biodiversity Foundation of the Environmental Ministry. A little bit of history to locate where is developing the project. Here we have two maps. The Albufera Natural Park is located in the center in the center of the east coast of the Iberian Peninsula. And this green part is the natural park of La Albufera, and also this green is our lake due to the eutrophication problems. At the beginning of the times, La Albufera, it was an open gulf, and now it is closing with the sediment of the two rivers, Turia in the north and Júcar in the south part. And this was a change from salt water to fresh water. Also later in the 19th century, man occupied around the lake to create rice fields, and well, we became an area of 50,000 hectares just to 2,008 hectares. We have an habitat of great environmental value. Most part of them are rice fields, and this landscape, and therefore the Albufera ecosystem are very changeable depending on the season. There are times when the fields are growing, and there are others at the same time that are dry, and others are float. So these are different habitat at one, for to say something. And with these advantages and these disadvantages, because when the migration season begins, the fields are dried, and the birds have nowhere to stop and rest or food. To solve these problems, different performances of habitat restorations have been developed in the natural park to recover the habitat and improve the biodiversity, as the restoration of a vegetation island inside the lake for nesting herons or another kinds of birds. Recovery of springs as clean water points, and also recover dunes and other habitats. And now where does the excuse me how the crisis arrived at the lake? As most of the wetland during the 17th industrial development around the lake, urban development and modernization practices in the agricultural cause a degradation of the waters due to the all direct discharge of industrial and agricultural wastewater to the lake. This caused the eutrophication of the waters, and we lost the biodiversity, and we lost the biodiversity in the lake, and we passed to the lake of clear water in the current green soup. You can see the green color of the lake. Well, and now where does the water that fill lagoon came from? So we can find irrigation returns, sewage effluent, ephemeral streams, and springs. In this graph, we can see how the influx origin change in the lake. The green color shows entries of the Hookah River, good water quality, natural water. Blue and blue and purple color are contributions of urban wastewater treatment plants. We see over the years the contribution of the river water have decreased compared with the contribution of low water quality loaded with nutrients to the lake that support the growth up of the phytoplankton. In this slide, I want to show the relationship between water quality and birds. And as with the contribution of low quality water in recent years, bird population have changed. In this graph, we can see how 50, 40 years ago, bird population were similar in terms of number of individuals and species. For example, here with green color, we have the wild duck, and in the years of good water quality, the population are small. That this one in red as red-crested poker is another species that we won't compare. And right now the water is of good quality. There is aquatic vegetation and food and habitat for all the species. And well, here and currently with bad water quality, habitat degradation, the disappearance of underwater macrophytes, the most abundant population are wild duck. Wild duck is an opportunist duck that does not need water quality or habitat compared to the specialists that they need better conditions as the red-crested poker. Well, despite these water quality problems, Albufera is natural park since 1996, is Ramsar site since 1998, is natural area is included in the Natura 2000 networks, and also is under the regulation of European Union with the Water Framework Directive, habitats and birds. So we know that the current ecological status is far from its optimum. So for that we are here to work to improve it. So what can we do? We have 3 rights files transforming in 3 constructed wetlands. These wetlands are declared as natural reserves in the natural park. So and these green filters of these constructed wetlands works as the traditional rice files. We take the water from the channel, and the water crosses from the different plots, irrigating the rice plants. In our case, our wild plants. Here we have a scheme of our green filters divided in different sectors. The difference between rice files and our constructed wetland is that we have wild vegetation in order to raise plants, and we don't add chemicals to improve the growing up of the plants. In this first sector, sector A, is made of gravel, so the flow is subsuperficial, removing suspended solid and chlorophyll due to the light absence. and the adhesion to the particles around the water, the gravel. Well, this is like an aquarium filter. After we have the sector B, where the water flow in surface and the water treatment continues back the action of the plants and bacteria. Here sometimes we have problems with the high concentration of ducks or flamingos because they remove the sediments. And in the last part of the infrastructure, we have a naturalized lagoon with subsuperficial vegetation, clear waters, and islands to nesting birds. Well, now I'm going to introduce you the three infrastructures that we have in Albufera Natural Park. This is Tancat de la Pipa. This was the first wetland constructed in the natural park with 40 hectares of surface. Is property of the Júcar River Basin Authority. And the two conservationist organization partners that work in the Albufera Life project are SEO, BirdLife, and Agroecologist Agro. This green filter, this wetland only has sector B and C. This filter doesn't have superficial flow with gravels. And with 33 and 16 hectares and three sectors, we have Tancat Emilia and Tancat Elilla, where the Fundación Global Nature works as partner of the project. We work with water, with birds and habitats, so life project manage. Now I will tell you what we will do with water. We studied the hydraulic infrastructure operation and the water quality. We know pollutants removal depends on water flow and water levels. And in the wetlands, water levels define type of habitat for wildlife. So we establish a specific flow rate and water level. In situ, we monitoring of flows and water levels, and we process the data. Regarding the water quality, we study physicochemical indicators as organic matter, nutrient, oxygen, soils. We study also plankton indicators as phytoplankton and zooplankton. We study macroinvertebrates, and we study sediments, in situ monitoring in situ all the data, studied in the lab, and also processing the data. And we are making a mathematical water quality modeling to design new wetlands. I'm going
5 minutes,
to tell you
Antonio.
how this green infrastructure. Okay. I'm going to show you how this green infrastructure works to remove solids. This is in this. One moment. This is the inflow water from the lake with green color, and this is the outflow after cross the green filter. As you can see, how the total suspended solids fall down between the entrance and exit. But this reduction is not continuous. Solids fall down drastically in the fish sectors, with gravels, and in sector B grows up due to wind, ducts, etc. And in sector C, all the concentration got out another time. So we can see that we have a 68% of solid removal. So this supposes that increase of the increasing of transparency and the superficial development grow up. For remove phosphorus, in this slide, we also can see how in the field sector the concentrations go down, and it's like in the other parameters. In sector B go up and a little bit, and in sector C falls down another time. With this parameter, we have an output of 52% of removal, and well, this phosphorus reduction reduces the phytoplankton growth and therefore the green color of the water. You can check our website to see all the results and publications that we make. After water, we work improving the habitat. We planted riparian vegetation. We cut it when it grows, and we control alien and native species, and we also protect endangered vegetation species. And why? Because we create in the filters an appropriate habitat to introduce endangered species like turtles, scoots, fishes, always with ecological purpose, but also with awareness campaigns. And finally, the third axis of the project. So we study birds, water and habitat indicators. We study the different. We do the study of the birds with different counting methods: ringing, radio tracking, listen some birds, etc. Well, after our study, we can find a direct relationship between the species and the habitat. We can say that wetlands with a lot of vegetation are good from herons. Wetlands with high density of vegetation without a high density of vegetation are good for coots and red-crested poker, so diverse species. And wetlands with regular vegetation have higher density of species, but with low populations. Okay. Here you have some species that you can find in the filters, most of them endangered species. Well, I told this in other situation, but it's real that in this project, looks like if you don't tell what you do, it looks like you don't do nothing. So we have dissemination campaigns with speeches, with file trees, with touring exhibition. We have a participatory campaign, working groups with hoteliers, hunters, fishermen, and also we go to international congress to tell what we do. As most of you know, we were in China with most of you, in Netherlands also, in UK, Spain. Also we have our communication tools, e-tools as website, Facebook, Twitter, and the conventional ones with information panels. So, well, and to finish and for summarize, I want to remember you that green filters in our case, green filters are constructed wetlands. In our case, are not only a natural waste water treatment plant, but are placed to study, to investigate, place where fauna and flora can grow up without human disturbs, and are placed for where the knowledge can transmit one to other, and well, are placed to enjoy also. So if some of you are scientists, study, volunteer, or bird watcher, please come and visit us. And that's all. Thanks for your attention.
Thank you very much, Antonio, and once again, thank you
Welcome.
to Felipe and Isabel for sharing with us your knowledge and experience in this innovative technology. For further information and further questions and comments, all the participants can directly forward their inputs to the panelists. We will circulate the full recorded webinar together with the presentation as well as evaluation questionnaire, as we are always aiming to improve the quality of our events. As well, and before we close the session, I would like to inform you that next Living Lake webinar is scheduled for May, and we will be most likely on the thematic of sustainable agriculture in lake regions. I hope you all enjoyed the webinar and hope to see you next time. Have a nice day. Thank you.
Thank you, Julia.
Thank you, Felipe.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, all of you.